Hello, everyone. Welcome to Aligning with Purpose, a podcast where we explore themes of finding your true purpose, from quitting corporate, moving cities, practicing holistic health, and more. Join me as we discover our purposes together. My name is Juli, and I'm so happy you're here. Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. I am super excited for today's podcast episode. I'll be talking about my life transition in the last year and a half. I went from my dream job in corporate to quitting and now becoming a certified life coach. So I am very excited to kind of talk about my journey and how I ended up becoming a life coach. In the later episodes, I will definitely dive in deeper to explain what life coaching is, how it differs from therapy, and what you can accomplish by having a life coach. I really hope that a lot of these tools and these skills that I've learned can also help you, because life coaching is so invaluable. So for today's Beauty and Humanity segment, this week at work, it was pretty busy and there were a lot of moments where, not gonna lie, unpleasant. There were a lot of, I don't know if it's because it's we were going through the Aries stellium, but there was a lot of unpleasant and heavy energy in the restaurant. A lot of aggression, people being very disrespectful towards us, people wanting things in a hurry. And me and my coworkers were just talking and we're like, what is in the air today? Because there's a lot of chaotic and unpleasant energy that is being displayed towards, the people working at our restaurant. If you work at a New York restaurant, or any restaurant for that matter, I'm sure you can relate that there's going to be so many different types of personalities that you work with, and it can get difficult sometimes. And I commend you for being able to deal with those moments, because it isn't always the easiest, but it does help us to grow. On a particular night, it was Thursday night, I had a solo diner come in and all the seats were already taken. The stools were taken at the bar, so not a single seat in sight. And I tell the man that it'll probably be around like 20 to 30 minutes before he gets a seat at the bar or a table. There was another gentleman that came in and he was also a solo diner. So I told him the same situation, that it was going to be a bit of a wait. And I'm running around serving all my tables. And then I look over and then they have started a conversation. And it was just really nice to see them connect. And I didn't really think anything of it. 20 minutes go by and a two-top opens up. So a two-seater high stool opens up. And I go to the older gentleman because he was first in line and all the waitlist people didn't show up. And I tell him that a table had been open and it seats a party of two. He looks over to the other guy and says, well, would you want to join me? I know, we're both looking for a seat. So they end up eating dinner together. And I thought it was just one of the sweetest moments, because I've never witnessed that at the restaurant so far. And for two different generations, the first one was in his mid, probably 70s, and the second one was in his mid 30s, early 40s. Two people of different cultures and backgrounds connect and help each other out. I thought it was just a really sweet and beautiful moment. Yeah, I think it was a two-part thing where I was having a more difficult, challenging week at work, but then this moment itself was so beautiful, but also it was able to kind of show me and give grace for all the other moments that were happening this week. Without further ado, let's get into today's podcast episode. A year and a half ago, I left my corporate dream job, packed up my bags, and moved to New York City. Just to give a little bit of a background, I also talked about this in my first episode of season 1, and I worked in the film industry for 7 years. I worked at 2 major studios in Hollywood. In my first job, I worked in a multicultural marketing department, marketing movies, and I thought this was my first dream job. As someone who wished they had blonde hair, blue eyes growing up, and who wanted to hide from my Japanese American, Asian American identity, I really thought that this job was going to help me in pursuing my purpose. Being in multicultural marketing, I now had the opportunity to market films to different communities and to have them be in the spotlight for a little bit. However, it was really blatantly toxic in this environment. I started to understand that this was kind of not the job that I signed up for, nor was this sort of a dream in any way. I think a lot of the fantasy that I held for working at a major movie studio started to fall apart, and I started to kind of wake up to the treatment and the realities of working in entertainment. The things you see in the movies are pretty accurate. Like if you watch The Devil Wears Prada, if you listen to different like accounts of people's experiences, like having a stapler thrown to their head, that didn't happen to me. I heard it on a podcast episode somewhere. Those things all happen. And it was just a blatantly toxic environment. I ended up leaving that company and went to another studio. And at this time, I was 25 years old. I just thought that if I moved companies, that all my problems would be fixed. I still didn't want to give up on corporate America because I just didn't know how to have success otherwise. So I move over to the next studio, and it was good for 7 months. At this place, I was in a diversity, equity, inclusion department, working with writers, directors, and we ran programs. So essentially, I was helping program manage many of our writers' programs and helping to create the next one that was coming out, which was a director's program. In a lot of ways, it was fulfilling, more so than doing multicultural marketing, because it felt like I was making a direct impact now on the whole process, whether that was reading scripts and calling out, things that could be changed because it was culturally insensitive, or helping writers get seen by our executives and making sure that they get opportunities. And then things slowly started to shift again, where it wasn't blatant toxicity this time, but it was a subconscious level of toxicity that I was experiencing. I clearly lay out what happened in my first episode, but I was just waking up to the fact that there were so many cracks in corporate America. A job where I once found so much glamour and glitz in was not what I thought it was anymore. Don't get me wrong, in the beginning, especially the first 2 years of my career, even though I was starting to understand like, oh, this is probably not what I want to be doing for the rest of my life, there were still a lot of great moments where I was sucked into the glamour of it all. I was walking celebrities down the red carpet. I was going to screenings, going to really cool marketing activations, and experiencing a lot of fun things that you wouldn't get to do in a normal corporate job. And those things felt like I had made it. And I held on to that for a really long time. I used my identity in corporate, especially the name of the 2 companies I worked for, as a crutch. Every time I would introduce myself, people would ask you, where do you work? And it was probably the easiest, but also the thing that would be the best conversation starter for me to talk about where I work and what I do, because I just use that as my identity. And it's so important for us to understand who we are at the core before we take on an identity of something that isn't truly ours. We can be so happy doing the job that we're doing, and we can be really proud of the work that we're doing, and it can be something that is our calling. And if it is our calling, then yes, we should be sharing it, shouting it through the roofs, and sharing the passion. But if we're using a corporate brand and hiding behind that, I think that's something where we really need to take a hard look in the mirror, and that's what I had to do after 7 years. In these 7 years, I lost my identity. I sought external validation, and getting that from my boss, family, friends, strangers. And in doing that, I knew that I was losing myself, and a part of me would chip away every single time. And I didn't know what it was, but subconsciously it was starting to build up. There were so many rules that I had created for myself, and so many boundaries that I had broken just to fit this mold and just to fit this narrative that I thought was protecting me. For example, staying late. I think in corporate, it's so easy for your bosses to judge your productivity based off of you staying late or coming in early. And putting in extra hours. And that to me is so backwards, because staying late or coming in early and putting in extra hours doesn't actually make you more productive or more valuable. The 40-hour work week, Monday through Friday, is actually meant for us to stay behind. We trade a screen for a screen. So what I mean by that is, in your 9 to 5, you're staring at a computer screen all day long, and then you go home, you're too tired to think about your actual passions, that you most likely are on your phone or watching the TV and trading your computer screen for another screen. And then you go to sleep, and then you do that over again. People don't question it because that 40-hour work week, Monday through Friday, is just enough time for you to be exhausted to not think about those things. So that was one thing that I started to wake up to. The second thing was being agreeable was also deemed as worthy. There were so many times where I felt like I couldn't truly share my voice, because if I had shared my voice too authentically or too honestly, then that would be a problem for the company. When I voiced my opinions and feelings about what I felt about my boss, that was met with a lot of resistance. And it wasn't just that instance. There were so many other ones where it almost felt like if I had just been agreeable, that would have been more worthy, and that would have led to a quicker promotion, because I am not challenging the system. Because anyone that challenges the system is a danger. And those are the people that are flagged. In entertainment, they tell us that we are so easily replaceable. That is something that I believed for the longest time. And that is still a narrative that a lot of corporate companies tell their corporate employees. And if they're not telling them directly, they are telling you indirectly by the way they are laying off people. The way it is so inhumane, and the way they just put your name on a calendar invite and toss you away, and your bosses don't even come talk to you. It's just you, the HR manager, and no conversation after. Or even the Amazon layoffs, right? Where people go into work, their badges don't work, and then they call a security guard and they hush and get rid of you. It is extremely demoralizing and inhumane to be treating people like that. It just goes to show that the people are replaceable is something that perpetually exists. And I believed that for a long time because they would tell us that. In my healing, I've really started to understand and learn that we aren't replaceable. When we detach from our corporate identities, we start to realize that we bring so much value as a human being. We each come here with a purpose in life, with our own specific missions on earth, and we are so unique and individual, and no one can take that away from you, despite what corporate wants you to believe. So it's so important to be working in an environment where you feel uplifted, to know that you aren't replaceable and what you're doing is extremely valuable. When you're working in a corporate environment, it is like a machine, right? You're working there Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. You're doing marketing campaign after marketing campaign, or sales pitch after sales pitch. And they treat you as if you are that task. So if it's not done, then of course someone else can come in and do the job. They don't take your value for what it is. They just take your skills and almost try to twist that and telling you that you're so special for being able to do this job super well without getting to know the core of who you are. Other things that I noticed in corporate was everything was urgent, even though we weren't saving any lives, and success looked like climbing the ladder. I carried that narrative for such a long time. Even after I quit corporate, going back into the restaurant industry, I still had the subconscious where I really had to work out those knots and to believe that a job is a job and every single job has a value and success looks different for every single person, and that needs to be honored. So just to recap all of this, I had a huge internal shift, and I think it was even happening in the first 2 years that I was in corporate. My subconscious was already telling me, oh, this is not a lifestyle that I want, but I'm gonna choose to go this way because I think this is right. I was letting my logical mind take over my intuitive mind. And every single year I collected more data, and it was just more voices in my head sharing with me all these things to grow my discernment in these areas. After all the years of toxicity, I started to really question, is this all there is to my life? Why am I allowing my worth and my identity to be attached to a job when this job doesn't even protect me? This job doesn't even value the real version of myself. Why is this normalized? And why is success just climbing the ladder? Who created that and who does it even serve? So those are the questions that I started to really ask myself and grow an eye in, if that makes sense. I was growing discernment to ask these questions because that's so important. You have to be able to question things, because if you don't do that, then you can be sucked into something that ultimately is not good for you. Corporate was quote unquote safe, but what does safety truly mean, right? Safety was having a steady paycheck, having a retirement savings account, having benefits. There were so many different things that were deemed as safe, but it was at the cost of yourself and your essence. And to me, that is the biggest thing to lose out on. To lose out on who you are and the person that you want to get to know, which is the deeper version of you. So if there's anything that I would want you to take away from this part of the podcast episode, is that you are so valuable. You bring so much worth into the world, and you owe it to yourself to discover that. This isn't to tell everyone to go quit their jobs and to quit corporate and to do that prematurely, or to tell everyone that they shouldn't be in their jobs, or that I'm placing judgment on where they're at in their lives. I truly believe that everyone has very different journeys, and maybe for you it is staying in corporate, right? But take it upon yourself to really learn yourself. Are you truly putting up the boundaries that you deserve? Are you being respected in the ways that you deserve to be respected and that you should be respected in? Are you able to share your voice? And are you able to discover yourself in the environments that you're in? And if not, then there needs to be some changes to be made. Maybe it's not going to be in corporate, but maybe it's other aspects of your life. But corporate was one that was a huge glaring light that was in my face that I had to really address. Before I get into how I became a certified life coach, I want to share about the in-between, because that part also served a very, very important chapter. And after I quit corporate, I relocated to New York. I lost the steady paycheck. I lost the benefits from corporate. I lost the 401k matching, that they give you in a corporate job. And a lot of those things are definitely luxuries that you don't think about when you're in that job, right? There was a period of time where I felt like I had made a mistake, and the old version of me kept calling me back. I would get emails from recruiters and opportunities, and getting messages from them, it started to make me feel like, oh, maybe I did make a mistake because this is easier and this way I feel safer. But it's not always about safety and comfort, because when you're in discomfort, that's when you stretch yourself to grow. And comfort doesn't necessarily mean that it's a better place to be, because you're not growing, you're staying at the same place, and you're not able to gather other insights that you can and stretch your mindset to be the version that you want to be. So my key insight during this time was that growth usually happens in the gaps between your old life and your new one, and that discomfort that you're going to feel. And I felt a ton of that. That discomfort was just, I can't even begin to explain to you how uncomfortable I was in that stage of my life, which was only a year ago, right? And I'm still feeling the effects of it. The identity crisis that I felt was also big and uncomfortable. How was I going to introduce myself now? I felt so much shame in the beginning, and every time people would be like, oh, what do you do? It'd be, I work at a restaurant selling oysters at a Asian American owned restaurant, and that also didn't feel truly true to who I was. So it was navigating that space while I was trying to decide and discover what business I wanted to start, who I was, heal, and to understand who Juli Yoshinaga really was, and to know what this soul in this body really wanted and what she was here to do. Sometimes it's just about taking it slow, taking a breath, and breathing into the moment, and to know that you are safe, that the universe has your back. You just have to trust in it and to honor your growth, because it's going to come the more you're able to listen to your heart and not let your logical mind take over, because I was doing that for a really, really long time. I quickly learned through this process that a job is a job. I let go of the shame of working at a restaurant and knowing that a dollar is a dollar. This assumption that a corporate job is deemed higher than other jobs is a myth, and it's a lot of conditioning that is given to us by American society and culture, and that's something that needs to be addressed, right? In this rebuilding phase, I was building a clear why and a clear who. Who was I always? Who had I always been? What lights me up? And what do I truly want to experience in life? What values do I want to bring into the world? And what does being authentic look like to me? Those are all questions I had to continue to ask myself every single month and really honor all the parts of the pieces, right? If you don't know who you are, then it's time for you to discover that, because if you don't know who you are borrowing someone's idea of that. And I'm not going to say that's wrong, because I think getting inspiration from others is a wonderful thing. But if you don't have a clear, grounded identity in who you are, then you're going to be lost. And that's the version I was when I was in corporate. I felt directionless for many months because I felt like I finally grasped something by leaving corporate, but it was also so far at the same time. So I made so many steps forward, but I didn't know what steps to make next. And for a long time, I allowed myself to stay stuck instead of making any sort of decision. But last year, when the business started to slow down at the restaurant, I started to panic a little bit, and it forced me to look inward again, to be a little bit more clear in the direction I was going in, and to do the things that I was fearing. So I started my LLC. I started the podcast that I've always wanted to start, even though I had so much fear around it. And doing all of that led me to becoming a certified life coach. And even becoming a certified life coach, there were a lot of different challenges, right? There was the financials of it, of putting down an investment for yourself. But I knew that it was the right decision, and I knew that not making a decision was also a decision. Last year, the whole year after I quit corporate, I had a small voice in my head that would always say the words life coaching. And every time I would give advice to a friend, even before this podcast, everyone would tell me how good I was at giving advice to people and how they trusted me with what I was sharing and how unbiased as I could be with them and giving them different perspectives. So I had always known that I was always good at giving nurturing energy to someone to make someone feel truly heard. And if I leaned into life coaching, that I could be really good at it. There was a small voice in my head that was also like, well, maybe this isn't the path. And I would let my logical side get in the way. But for months and months, I would think about life coaching, and it kept getting louder and louder. And as soon as I launched season 1 of the podcast, and when I was halfway through, I just knew that life coaching was my next path. I didn't know how I was going to get there yet, but I knew that this is the one that I wanted to take. At my core, I'm an empath, I'm a nurturer, and I deeply care about humanity. It was through my own journey in growing, changing, evolving for me to realize that it is so possible for every single person to grow and to change. And it really comes down to their desire to want to do that for themselves. But at the core, I know that people have the ability to do that and to be the hero and the creator of their own lives. I knew that I wanted to champion people and to be there for people in their growth and to support them and to bring them from the place that they are at to the one that they want to be at. To me, that felt so aligned and special. And so the moment I made the plan for myself to find the school, to figure out how I'm going to fund my schooling, all the things that come with starting up, becoming a life coach, after those things were in line, I just felt so alive and so ready to do it. Now I get to do what I love. I get to help people grow. I get to help people understand the power that they have of themselves. I get to help people feel heard, to feel cared for. And when I say it is so worth it to listen to your heart, to really think about what's going to bring you purpose and what you want to do with your life, because this is something that I wouldn't have been able to do in a corporate setting. And I finally get to shine for the reasons I want to shine, instead of, you did a great job picking these colors on the deck, or, oh, you did a great job presenting, or whatever it is, right? A lot of those skills are still yours too, but now I get to do it because it feels more meaningful to me. I want to also be that person that I wish I had in my journey to support someone when they need it most. So that brings me to what I'll be doing specifically as a life coach. I am a certified holistic life transition coach, and I will be helping people move from their corporate careers to entrepreneurship. That really aligns with my story, what I've been sharing with you here today. But I am going to be helping people who are thinking of quitting, who have already quit, who are already on their entrepreneurial path, who are thinking about their business ideas, people who are figuring out what their purpose is, who want more clarity on that. I will be helping clients to achieve their dreams. It's also going to be about shifting our mindset about abundance and about money and about the relationships that we have with people and how they're affecting us, right? Because everything at the end of the day is going to be a thought problem. It's not the situation that you're in, it's the thoughts that you're having about the situation. So more on that later, but we're going to be really working on your mindset and the framework that you have to make sure that you're able to call in the abundance of your new life. It's about creating money, doing the things that you want to do because it's in alignment and it's purposeful to you. And as someone who has walked that path, has been in so many uncomfortable situations, had to push myself to get to my dreams, I want to be able to support people do the same. I'll also be taking general life coaching clients as well if that doesn't apply to you, because I truly believe that everyone deserves support on their journeys. And I really wish I had that in my life. I think that life coaching is something that really helped me a lot, and it helps you see your blind spots. It helps you see how your mindset could be affecting your growth and where you want to go. Having an accountability partner, it's really working through those internal things so your internal world can reflect what you are getting back in your external world. I am just so excited to finally start making the impact that I want to make to better humanity, to better help support people around me. And I am so honored and grateful that I get to do this work now. So I'll be sharing my website, my offerings to you very soon. Keep looking out on this podcast, on socials for all that information. It's going to be dropping very soon. And in the meantime, I can tease out some of the stuff for season 2. I'm going to be talking about life coaching versus therapy, what life coaching is, how life coaching is very beneficial and helpful for everyone, and what it can really unlock in your life. I want to leave everyone with a closing note. And I've also put this quote in my free resource workbook that will be coming out on my website. We've spent a lifetime building ourselves into the shape of other people's applause. We've been the reliable employee and the successful professional. But praise is a mirror, not a compass. It tells you how others see you. It cannot tell you who you are. Regardless of the life that you're deciding to walk, whether that's staying in corporate, quitting corporate, deciding on it, always be empowered from within and not gather that externally. It's ultimately everyone's decision on their own to decide what's best for them, and no decision should be coming from someone else's pressure, ever. Thank you so much for joining me on Aligning with Purpose, and I am super excited to chat more next episode and to share more about the website that will be launching very soon. If you enjoyed today's podcast episode, please like, subscribe, follow all the things on your favorite streaming platforms, on YouTube if you like the video version. I'm also on social media. It's going to be at aligningwithpurpose.pod, and my personal one is at Juli Yoshi, JuliYoshi. If you enjoyed today's podcast episode or have been enjoying Aligning with Purpose so far, please leave a comment, a rating. That really helps me out and to really share out this message to other people who are looking for something similar in their lives. So I am so grateful to be able to share my voice with you. And thank you so much for supporting, and catch you at the next episode. Bye, everyone.